Hey kiddos, let's go over this 5-question quiz, shall we? Let me share my screen with you over here. So this is problem number 1. It says, suppose that P and Q are points on the number line. If PQ is equal to 6 units in length and Q lies at -14, where could P be located? If there is more than one location, separate them with commas. And they ask you to put the locations of P. Well, Q is here at -14. So if it's 6 units in length and it's on a number line, we could go 6 units this way, right? Plus 6. And where else could we go? We could also move 6 units to the left. So I'm going to move here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I move -6 units, where do we end up? So -14 plus 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 actually did manage to move 6 units to the right. So if I owe you $14 and I pay you back $6, how many dollars do I still owe you? So P could be here at -12, right? Now, could also be at -16 and move to the left 6 units. So here's the other part, the other place rather that P could be. So if I owe you $14 and I say, hey, can I borrow $6 more? How many dollars do I owe you? Okay. So altogether, I owe you $20, or I have -$20. So the two locations of P could be -20, comma, -12. Two different locations. P could be to the right or to the left. Okay, let's take a look at the next problem. This one, there's only one possible answer. Point B is the midpoint of AC. Find the location of C. Okay, where is C? Is C over here? Is C over here? Or is C somewhere over here? I'm going to put position 1, position 2, or position 3. Where do you think that C is located? If you have to reread the question, when you're pausing to answer the question in the video, reread the question. Okay, so it says point B is the midpoint of AC. So this right here, point B, is in the middle, right? If B is the midpoint, then this can't be C, right? This can't be C. So let's get rid of those. They don't even make any sense, right? This is the only one where C is left at the midpoint. So it has to be over here. Okay, how do we find the distance between any 2 points on the number line? If I want to find the distance between any 2 points on the number line, I always take the bigger number, which is to the right, and subtract the smaller number that's to the left. Okay, so I'm going to find the distance between B and A. -10 minus -25. That's going to find the whole distance between A and B. Minus a minus is plus a plus. So how far is it between A and B? 25 minus 10, that's 15. So when I jump from here to here, right, that's plus 15. Okay, so to move from B to C, how far is it? Remember, B is the midpoint. Okay, so to move from B to C, it's the same distance. That's the definition of the midpoint. It's halfway, right? So the length of AB and BC are equivalent. So I could start at B and add 15. So -10 plus 15, that distance that I'm adding, is going to give me the location of C. So where is C? -10 plus 15 is +5, and that puts the location of C at +5. My recommendation for this problem is definitely to draw it out. Okay, let's move on to this next fun problem. Okay, given the figure below, find the values of X and Z. We have to remember two things here. We have to remember vertical angles and vertical angles. Are they congruent, or do they add up to 180? So a pair of vertical angles would be this angle and this angle. So are vertical angles congruent, or do they add up to 180? What do you think? What do you remember? Okay, so vertical angles are always congruent. Okay. Always. There are no exceptions to this. Are always congruent. Okay, so if this angle and this angle are congruent, what can I do with them? I can set them equal to one another. Let's do that. So we have 10x plus 16 equals 66, right? So my first step would be to subtract 16 from both sides, and I get 10x is equal to 50. My next step would be to divide by 10 and divide by 10. And so x would be equal to 5. In this case, they're not asking, in the final problem, they're asking for x. They're not asking for the angle measure, okay? But I also need to find out z. So z and this angle here next to each other, these two angles, those form a linear pair. They're adjacent to one another. So when angles are adjacent and form a linear pair, so linear pairs, are they congruent, or do they add up to 180? What do you think? How do you remember? How do you see it? Linear pairs add up to 180 degrees. Okay, two different ways. 180 degrees, Miss Rowe. 180 degrees. So when two angles are next to each other on a straight line like this, okay, that means they add up to 180 degrees. One way to remember that is all the way around is 360, so half of it would be 180. Also, anything that is, these are also called a straight angle. When it's a straight angle, it adds up to 180 degrees. So I'm just going to remember that z is going to be equal to z plus 66 equals 180. And then I'm going to subtract 66 from both sides. Now you could also just say, well, I know that this angle plus this angle equals 180, and say 180 minus 66 equals z. But if you want to see the whole thing algebraically, so I'm going to say in my head that 180 minus 70 is 110, and add 4 more. So it looks like z in this case is equal to 114 degrees. Okay, very nice. Number 4. Okay, in the figure below, the measure of angle 1 equals 2 times x, and the measure of angle 2 equals x plus 36. Okay, so I like to label my diagram, and I would probably draw this on my piece of paper. So angle 1 is here, and that's 2 times some unknown number that we don't know. And then this other angle here, angle 2, that's x plus 36, okay? What do we know that these two angles add up to be? What does this little guy here tell us that these two add up to be? That's right, 90 degrees. So let's go ahead and set up our equation like this. So 2 times x plus x plus 36. I just changed colors. I don't like that. I want blue. Had this all color coded, Miss Rowe. X plus 36. If I add that up, it's going to be equal to 90 degrees. This is going to let me solve just for x. So what happens when I combine my like terms? What is 2x plus x? So I have altogether, I have 3x plus 36 equals 90. Okay. Then I subtract 36 from this side and subtract 36 from this side. So 3x equals 54. Divide by 3 and divide by 3. So it looks like x equals 18, right? So x is equal to 18, but am I done? That's not what they asked me to find. What was the question that we were trying to answer? Okay, question we're trying to answer is find the angle measures, right? So what I need to do is plug that 18 back in for x. So 2 times 18 is going to equal the measure of angle 1, right? So 2 times 18 is 36. 36. That sounds good to me. And the measure of angle 2 is going to be equal to 18 plus 36. Okay, so 8, 9, 10, 11, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I get 54 for the measure of angle 2. Now, if this was an assessment that I cared about, which you should care about every assessment, right? I'm going to go back and I'm going to add these two guys together and say, well, 36 plus 54, this better be 90 to make sure that I did it right. And thank goodness, it does add up to be 90 degrees. So I'm fairly certain that we did it correctly. Okay, one more problem. You ready? This is a fun guy. Okay, let's see what we know and what we don't. Okay, first of all, what we can remember is that vertical angles are congruent, right? We remember that from our last problem. So these two guys we could set equal to each other, but I've got an x and I've got a y, so that's not going to help me. I have two different variables, doesn't help. What angle can I also say is equal to 84? Okay, this angle here is equal to 84. So that means, well, this angle right here is 84, right? Those are vertical angles. But what other angle do I know is 84? This little guy up here. What do we call those angles when they're in matching corners? Yep, when they're in matching corners, we call those corresponding angles. Okay, let's write that down just so we remember the vocabulary. Corresponding angles are in matching corners. And when lines are parallel, corresponding angles are congruent. Are congruent when a transversal is cut by two parallel lines. Okay, so that only works when we have this beautiful transversal here that has the lines parallel. So that's why this angle is 84 and this angle is 84. Well, we have let's start off with the linear pair. That's the easier of the two, and I like easy, okay? So these two angles are next to each other now, okay? And they add up to how many degrees when they form a linear pair? 180 degrees, okay? So let's find that first, all right? So x plus 84 equals 180. I'm going to subtract 84 from this side and subtract 84 from this side. So x equals 96. So now we found out what our x equals to. There are two different ways you could solve for y, and it's up to you. You're the mathematician, okay? But I like easy, so I'm going to do it the way I think is easier, but I can do it both ways. What are those two ways that we could solve for y? Okay, we could either say that these two form a linear pair and add this expression plus 84 equals 180, or we could do it like this, where we already know what x is equal to. That's equal to 96, right? So I'm going to do that in blue. So I'm just going to set 6y minus 48 equal to 96, because it's going to be a little bit shorter, okay? Doesn't mean it's the right way. It's just the way that I chose to do it right now. Okay, so I have 6y equals, Miss Rowe without a calculator, this is fun. 144, is that right? 144, I'm going to divide this side by 6. I'm going to divide this side by 6. So I get that y is equal to 24. Okay. I'm going to plug it back in because it says that that this expression here, right? 6 times 24 minus 48, what should that give us, right? It should give us the 96 that we said was equal to x. So 24 times 6, I'm just going to come over here and do that. 6 times 4 is 24. 12, 13, 14. That's 144 minus 48. And yeah, I do get 96. So that makes sense. Okay. I will say that if you prefer to do it this way, there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm going to do that in green just really quickly if you want to see it. There's nothing wrong with saying that 6y minus 48 plus 84 equals 180, right? Okay, so 84 minus 48. Okay, so I'm just going to subtract 50 and then add 2 more. So that's 6y plus 36 equals 180. And then I'm going to subtract 36 from both sides. Oh, 6y equals 144. Takes me about the same amount of time. Divide by 6 and divide by 6, and y still equals 24. So either way, you get that y is equal to 24 and x is equal to 96. Okay, kiddos, now go do your second assignment that says first quarter formative review assignment. And once you have 100% on that, you can work on your requiz. Thank you, kiddos. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video and putting up with all of my horrible mistakes in this video. Thank you. Bye.